If you're an existing SAP customer, you might be thinking about an S/4HANA upgrade. If you haven't decided yet, I'm here to tell you, long live ECC. I'm going to talk about what that means here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent and tech-agnostic consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation and ERP journeys. And we have several clients we're working with right now that are trying to navigate the decision or the journey to go from SAP ECC to S/4HANA. And there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do it. You might want to do it because SAP is telling you to. They're going to cut off maintenance. It might be because you're worried about all that old customization and all that baggage you built up within the old system. It might be because you have a fear of being left behind. Maybe you want to adopt more AI capabilities. So I understand there's a whole lot of reasons why you might be considering S/4HANA, but we also have a lot of customers that are very nervous about making that transition, and they should be. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to consider staying put on ECC, at least for the time being. And I want to provide you an alternative way of thinking about this, not to convince you to stay with ECC necessarily, but to make sure that you're making an objective and sound decision about moving towards S/4HANA versus staying put on ECC. So what I want to do today in today's video is talk about some of the reasons why you might want to stay on ECC. And if any of these points resonate with you here today, it may be that it's appropriate for you to stay put with ECC. Now, in addition to the content I'm going to share with you in today's video, I also encourage you to read our guide to successful S/4HANA implementations. Whether or not you've actually started on your journey, or if you're just thinking about whether or not you should move from ECC to S/4HANA, this guide will help you make the decision and it will help guide you on the journey if you do decide to move forward with S/4HANA. And we share in this guide some of the best practices we've learned from having helped so many organizations through their S/4HANA upgrades. So you can read that by scanning the QR code right here, or you can go to the links below. Now, one of the top reasons, if not the top reason, why clients of ours are making the move to S/4HANA is because they're worried about SAP discontinuing support in 2030. And this is a valid concern. If your software vendor is going to stop supporting the product, they're going to stop investing R&D dollars in it, that is something you should be concerned about long term. However, in the short term, it may not be as dire or urgent as SAP would like you to believe. There are third-party support options out there that will buy you some time. And I don't mean just a couple of years. I mean now until 2040. So you've got a solid 15 years of potential coverage that you have if you need it from a third party. Just because SAP isn't providing it doesn't mean you can't get it elsewhere. Now, examples of companies that are providing this third-party support include companies like Rimini Street and Spinnaker. Those are probably the two biggest ones here globally, and they will provide support for years to come. Now, another interesting thing as it relates to third-party support and maintenance is at the time I'm recording this video, the European Union is actually investigating SAP for potential antitrust behavior related to third-party maintenance and support. In other words, the government is starting to probe whether or not SAP is trying to keep customers from buying third-party maintenance options, or at the very least, they're making it very difficult for them to move toward a third-party solution. So keep an eye on that case, because I think that's going to set the tone for how SAP treats this whole discontinuation of support going forward. They may still decide to discontinue the product, but I think it's going to make it easier longer term for customers to stay put on ECC and find third-party options elsewhere, especially if SAP sticks with their 2030 deadline. Arguably, the top reason why you may not want to move from ECC to S/4HANA right now is that S/4HANA implementations are extremely risky. We are working with a number of clients right now that have troubled implementations, and we're helping them recover and get back on track. And it's not a technology problem per se necessarily. It's not just the technology that's a problem, although that is part of it. Part of the reason is because S/4HANA is a totally different product than ECC. Part of it is also because so many customers are used to the flexibility that ECC has that they get into S/4HANA and find that it's culture shock. They can't figure out how they're going to untangle all this customization that they've developed over the years in ECC, and it becomes more of a jump or more of a gap between where they are today and where they need to move towards with S/4HANA. And it's not enough for SAP to reassure you that you can just start with a clean core, you can just use their best practices. That's all marketing nonsense. The reality is you need what you need out of your system or systems, and you need to make sure that you understand what the risks are and how big of an adjustment this is going to be to move to S/4HANA. So the fact that S/4HANA is a risky endeavor, a lot of companies are struggling with it right now, and a lot of companies are resisting the move to S/4HANA for that very reason. Those are all things that you should take into consideration before deciding to move forward with an S/4HANA implementation. Another reason why it may not make sense to move from ECC to S/4HANA is because much of your intellectual property, much of your secret sauce, your competitive advantages are probably tied up in ECC, largely because it's a flexible product and largely because you probably invested heavily in customization, for better or for worse. Now, SAP may look down on you and tell you shouldn't have customized the software, or you're customizing the software because you're resisting change. That could be partially true, but chances are pretty high if you have customization in ECC that there's some intellectual property, there's some competitive advantage that you've built, and something that's going to be very hard to replicate, if not impossible to replicate in S/4HANA. Reason being that S/4HANA Cloud is a less flexible solution than ECC. It just is. So you're going to have to adapt and conform to SAP in the way it works, whether you like it or not, whether it works for you or not. And SAP will try to convince you that those are best practices and you need to start with a clean core, but it's not that easy. You can't throw out all those years of R&D that you've built and all those years of innovation, especially if it's something that's unique to you that gives you a competitive advantage over others in your industry. So before moving to S/4HANA, it's really important to understand what customization you have and how important that customization is or isn't to you. If you've customized for no reason or you can't justify that customization, then sure, maybe it does make sense to move to S/4HANA. But if you've built something unique for you, your secret sauce, you may want to think twice about it. Another big reason why you should think about staying put on ECC rather than upgrading to S/4HANA is because there may not be a business case justification for it. If you are considering S/4HANA, I have to ask you this. Have you built a business case? And if so, can you clearly justify that investment you're about to make with measurable business value? I'm going to guess that most of you will probably answer no to that question, as do most of our clients. It is just very difficult to justify making a move from a software that's very proven, it's very stable, it's very flexible, and by system, I mean ECC. It's very difficult to justify making that move from ECC to a brand new S/4HANA implementation. Now, when I ask if there's a business case justification, I'm not talking about intangible things like we have to because we have to get rid of technical debt or we have to because SAP is cutting off maintenance. Those are different issues. What I'm talking about is actual measurable value that's going to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your operations. Now, if you can do that, then sure, certainly go ahead with your S/4HANA implementation. But if you can't justify via a reliable and objective business case that SAP has not given to you, by the way, then you need to question whether or not it's the right path for you. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you that you should absolutely not upgrade to S/4HANA. For some of you, yes, that will be the answer. But for some of you, it may be that you do want to move to S/4HANA. It may make perfect sense for you. So again, if you have the right business case and you can justify it clearly with the cost benefit, then move forward with it. It's just important in that case that you have a very clear, realistic understanding of what the cost is, because too often organizations severely underestimate the time and cost it takes to move to S/4HANA. You also want to make sure you have an accurate and clear objective understanding of what the real business benefits are, because again, organizations too often overstate the business benefits, largely because SAP and their system integrators will often tell you that the benefits are greater than they really are. You may be on a really old version of ECC that hasn't been upgraded in a really long time. In that case, you probably might need to move forward with a S/4HANA implementation. And then finally, what I would say is even if you do decide to stay with ECC for now and invest in other areas, I would say or encourage you to think about longer term what you might do. Because if you stay on ECC for too long, at some point, maintenance is going to run out. At some point, it's going to be harder to find resources that know ECC, and it's going to be more difficult to support that environment in the long term. But if we're just looking at the next 3 to 5 years, it may be that there's other options out there that are meant to help you through your digital modernization journeys. And speaking of that, if you'd like to learn more about different trends in the industry, different types of technologies you might want to think about or consider in addition to or in replacement of SAP ECC, be sure to check out our digital transformation report. You can find that by scanning the QR code right here or go to the links below. And also be sure to check out our guide to S/4HANA implementations. This provides tech-agnostic, independent advice on how to be successful with your S/4HANA implementation. If you decide to go that direction, you can read that by scanning the QR code right here or go to the links below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day.